Welcome to Native Calgarian and Mossy for listening. I'm your host, Michelle Robinson, speaking to you in Mohkinstsis in the Blackfoot Confederacy, home of the Niitsitapi, Tsuut'ina Dene, and the Yiharhi Nakota. I talk about history, current news, unheard news, book clubs, with special guests to give local or national issues a voice through an urban Saulteaux Dene lens. My life's work will be to honor the voices of my ancestors and next generation with humor, love, and truth. Reconciliation is work, not performance. May we honor all Indigenous voices with that courage. Today is September 25th, 2025. Welcome to Native Calgarian. If you enjoy listening to Indigenous content by this Saulteaux Dene woman, my Patreon account is Native Calgarian, where you can pledge and support. Thank you, previous donors, for already showing your support. For those who cannot afford to give, I would love to hear from you at nativeyyc@gmail.com, where you can send in your comments or questions. Also, giving a review helps, whatever medium you're listening from. I have a YouTube channel that you can go and subscribe. Go to nativecalgarian.com for the latest podcasts and pin posts on social media and all your streaming services. And always remember to share the things you learned with your network. Oki, naganago, meko che chestakom aki, nara dago, de kotsnagotene siku seradi. My name is Red Thunder Woman. My married English name is Michelle Robinson. I use they, them pronouns. My Dene lineage roots me in the land of the Great Bear Lake tribe in Treaty 11, in Delaney. I'm native to Turtle Island, and my Dene nation is uninvited to this area of Clinchotine Indahe in Saulteaux Dene, meaning Many Big Dog Town, named after the Calgary Stampede. I was born in Calgary, or in Blackfoot, Mohkinstsis, as Michelle Elliott, an English name, which has afforded me privilege in an English colonial world. Acknowledging proximity to whiteness is important, because the closer you are, the more advantages you have at the end of the day. My late great-grandfather is Milo Bewell from Delaney. His daughter, Alice, is now my late granny. My mother and I are Northern Slavey Dene, or Saulteaux Dene, but my Indian Act and Post status card by the Canadian government says Yellowknives Dene First Nation. Through my father, I am a daughter of the Mayflower and a daughter of the American Revolution. Having a Canadian Indian Act and Post status card is a colonial construct by Canadian policies meant to divide Indigenous peoples' inherent rights, Indigenous Two-Spirit, or the Indigenous 2S LGBTQ community, and Indigenous women are at the bottom of the Canadian economic social ladder because of colonial trauma, imposed poverty, land theft, racism, gendered violence, etc. I am not a social worker, nor am I an elder, nor do I speak on behalf of all Indigenous people. But I do share my journey as a newly diagnosed ADHD Dene mom, navigating this colonial, racist, ableist, racist world in 2025. Land Back is a movement that would save the planet from climate change created by colonialism. But it would be part of a treaty partnership, meaningful reconciliation, honoring global initiatives like the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of the Indigenous People. As a former drafter, I would love to teach you more, but you have to go to nativecalgarian.com for more. And I think of all of this today because we must honor the many lives lost for the British Westminster system and a colony named Canada. I hope you see your role in the importance of stopping harm as a citizen, see your role in reconciliation and as a treaty partner. So lots to talk about. First and foremost, I didn't expect to be doing this one because I had a guest, so I didn't think I'd be doing another solo one before my break. So this is, I know I can't do another one for the October 6th surgery. So this is where we're at, folks. I'm really happy that you could join me one last time. Because again, I just see media changing so quick. I don't know what to expect. You can expect to hear my book club. So, it's not the end of the world. It's just I'm taking a small break. I never take breaks. It's been years of this and I never take breaks. So, and posting a bunch of book clubs is hardly taking a break either. So whatever. It is what it is. And I just don't know if by the time Trump has done this, we're going to have any access to streaming services anymore. So for folks who don't know, TikTok is being taken over by Trump, and a lot of these legacy medias are dealing with the ramifications of the FCC and the anger of Trump. So we are struggling with what media is going to look like at all. And as you all know, the tech bras have decided that they are going to back Trump, so they can just decide to pull the stuff they want to pull when they want to. So we just don't know what's going to happen. But I will say this. Y'all have to really start paying attention to what you're doing. I'm going to start by talking about Dr. Darren Markland. I started following him on Twitter. Many folks in Alberta politics did. He was one of the most outspoken doctors that there were for masks during COVID. Information going out, fighting the Alberta government because of their stringent health policies that they've been putting that are not based in science evidence and are more for the anti-science conservative base that the UCP get voted in by. So he's been a thorn in their side. On top of that, he was also an advocate for cycling in urban settings. And like I cannot understand why conservatives are fighting that so bad, but they are. So anyway, it was the conservatives that were like, this is the irony of everybody who fucking has an opinion about Charlie Kirk. Like, here was a man who was a Nazi, piece of fascist, a piece of garbage, and people mourned him. And even Jimmy Kimmel is back on the air because now he cries for fascists. So we have people who are like, you can't say mean things about dead people. And then you have the conservative bot machine, bought and paid for by the military industrial complex, putting out all of these bot scammy links about the death of Dr. Darren Markland because they hated him. They were attacking him based off of his cycling, COVID restrictions, science. They were attacking him. He was relentlessly attacked online all the time. They capitalize on his death, and his so-called smart colleagues who have doctorates and PhDs are fucking sharing it, hence giving that money to these conservative military industrial complex bots. And against the family's wishes nonetheless. I was so disappointed. I just was blocking a million people. I could not understand how they fell for this. I couldn't. So like if you fall for that, how can I trust your opinion on COVID? Oh, oy, oy, oy. I mean, I make mistakes too, but I own up to them. The thing about doctors, especially in Alberta, they will never. They're way too arrogant. So yeah, I was really upset because not only were we mourning the loss of an amazing Albertan who actually gave a shit about people and their health, but on top of that, we had this whole bot scam cycle, and people were purporting it, giving them money, and really going against the very actions that Dr. Darren Markland would have wanted. So I had seen there was some kind of cycling magazine that had finally put out a bit about it, as well as the like Nordeg off-road mountain biking club or something that they put out a statement. So I was waiting for something like that because that's what Darren would have wanted, or Dr. Markland would have wanted. So I finally shared that last night. I'd been waiting a few days, and I know all of Alberta was sad because we knew beforehand. And why we knew beforehand, there were people that were all sad panties, and they're like, I'm just not in the clique. And it's like, yeah, you're not in the clique. You have to be a doctor. You have to, or in the medical field in general, and get the release that the medical field gave to the medical field to talk about why they lost another doctor. And the family had asked for privacy. But no, 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 no. Everybody has to be like, oh, I'm a conservative and I work for the military industrial complex and I can't wait to say this because I hated him. And yet we'll cry sad panties for Charlie Kirkland, or Charlie Kirk, sorry. Just sad. I'm just sad about it. I wanted to let people know, if you are just finding out about the death of Dr. Darren Markland here, hey, hats off to you for at least not following all the conservative bot crap that's out there. That, I mean, at least you did that. So thank you. But rightfully so, very sad. Last night I had gone to see Bob Joseph. And for folks who don't know who that is, he is one of, I would say, the leaders in the Indigenous corporate world about how to handle things, how to do certain things when it comes to Indigenous economic relations with settlers. So, anyway, I wore a mask, one of the few folks there who wore a mask, and happy to hear him, see him, talk to him. Lovely human being. And I'm going to put a reflection at the end of my podcast that is about him. So we're going to circle back to that conversation. But all I kept thinking when people were like, hey, thanks for wearing a mask was, well, that's what Dr. Darren Markland would have wanted. He would want us all masked up right now. So I don't know. I'm just sad that people have to read Dr. Darren Markland's tweet today in order to do it today rather than read what he has said over the course of the last, I don't know how many years we have been connected, but well over 5. And, just be thinking about what would Dr. Darren Markland do in the middle of a measles crisis, in the middle of a COVID crisis, and I'm going to say this, I'm mad that the conservatives want to demonize his death as cycling. He was hardcore, man. And I don't know what the accident that happened out there was like, but I know at least he died the way he would have wanted to, as opposed to from a measles or COVID infection. So I just, have so much love and respect for him, his legacy, his words, his education. And as for his family, my deepest condolences to his colleagues that, regardless of whether you shared bot scams, so many wonderful messages put out there, too soon, but put out there. And, I know he had a tremendous impact within the health community. Now, I just wish we would have used all that energy for anti-racism policies, but whatever, here we are. Um, so it is September 25th, which means we have a lot of information coming out from the National Center on Truth and Reconciliation. So people, you really don't have an excuse not to like be doing something for the Day of Truth and Reconciliation. Uh, I was talking to Jon Wells' family last night. So Jon Wells was murdered by the Calgary police. The Carriage House Inn he was staying at and was having a mental health breakdown. And the employees there thought it was a great idea to call the police on this well-respected native who had done just so many good things for our community. And the police shot and killed him. So the anniversary just happened. And yesterday when I was talking to the family, they're going to do a walk on September 30th on Truth and Reconciliation Day. And they're going to walk from the Carriage House Inn over to District 6, the Calgary Police District 6. So we've put out the poster. I don't know what your plans are for September 30th. I'm going to be at the zoo that day doing some teachings. So wherever you're going to be, if you don't have plans, please support that family. Jon Wells' family deserves it. What is interesting as a person just from the outside looking in, seeing how many people will put effort towards Charlie Kirk or even Dr. Darren Markland, but will not for the very treaty partners that they're residing on. And it's terrible actually watching that real time. Same with there's kids missing. There's one in Crow's Nest Pass who has autism, and we have Samuel Bird. I had this white fellow here in Abbeydale that passed, and seeing the difference in how people mourn for people that look like them. It makes me really sad watching this. So if you have the opportunity to support Jon Wells' family, please do. If you are not in Calgary, go to one of the Truth and Reconciliation events that are happening all across wherever you are. There's no place in Canada there's not an event. There's no excuse. Please go to them. I did want to talk about real quick Samuel Bird. I was in Edmonton just real briefly, but I didn't have the physical and mental capacity to go to the camp But if you're in Edmonton, again, please put a little bit of effort into helping Samuel Bird's family. They deserve it. These policies that give you a good life is why Samuel Bird is missing, because we are under the boot of everybody else. The Sisters in Spirit vigils are going to be happening on October 4th all across the country. And here in Calgary, thanks, buddy. That was Trinket making a guest appearance. He's like, "What are you doing, Mom?" Um, Sisters in Spirit vigils started because of Bridget Tolley. Bridget Tolley's mom was murdered by the police out in Quebec, and she has been fighting for decades for justice. Um, and when she started doing her vigil for her mom, lots of Native women across the country started to do it as well. During the Harper years, uh, Rona Ambrose cut the funding to actually give the stats for the missing and murdered Indigenous women. And I was checking the wiki and I noticed that somebody went in there and changed that so that Rona Ambrose's legacy of cutting the funding for Sisters in Spirit at the NWAC is now gone missing off of wiki. So I just wanted people to remember that as well. So October 4th, there will be vigils all across the country. So whatever city you are in, go to one. I know we have at least two here in Calgary. I have one that I'm part of the committee of organizing. It's more grassroots. We don't want police there, so that's why ours is a little different than the other one. So. Um, I'm going to go more into municipal politics, but just real quick with the Forever Canadian petition. Um, I've been wanting to say this for a while, but I haven't because I just want it to go well. And I want natives to not have to do yet another lawsuit because Albertan settlers allowed this rhetoric to continue. I'm so offended that I have to speak about this at all because this is treaty land. There's no possible way that Alberta can become an independent republic. This will be fought in court forever. And resources that should be going to Albertans, resources that should be going to Indigenous people, will instead be going into the court system. So I'm annoyed. But what I'm also annoyed with is this: seeing all these folks who would mobilize in a second for this, but not for reconciliation. Um, Wearing an orange shirt. Like I said in my last podcast, I met the mayor of St. Albert and she didn't know what MMMIW meant. So like people are wearing these orange shirts and don't even know what the calls to action are, don't know any of the, things that they should actually be doing. And I shared a couple of other youth TikToks and people who were basically calling this out and saying things like, reconciliation is a 365-day a year thing that all Canadians should be doing, which I couldn't agree more of. But for I guess 3 months, I have seen Albertans mobilize for an issue that they felt very passionate about, and that's Forever Canadian. And it's a real shame these treaty partners wouldn't put that same effort towards a million other things that they could. But we're here right now, and I'm seeing lots of grassroots folks trying to reinvent the wheel of activism, which is fine. To me, I'm like, look, if you're gonna go look and follow that pretty blonde over there, then okay, go do that if that's how you fight fascism. What is a shame is that people will listen to males over women, et cetera, et cetera. Kind of back to this conversation about bots, conservative bots. I am so disappointed with how many progressives have fallen for the anti-Jyoti Gandhi campaign that has been happening since she got reelected. And saying, yeah, I don't like her. And even somebody else who I had considered a friend who has nothing on Indigenous issues on her website, um, and claimed to care about women in politics is running against her. White blonde with blue eyes. I'm sure she'll do better. I wonder what is that one thing that progressives seem to mobilize for? White people. Right. Forgot about that. Just kidding. I didn't forget about that. I'm just trying to point it out to my listeners who clearly need it pointed out that they don't understand racism and they don't see how they will go towards men and they'll go towards um, white women before they will women of color, indigenous voices, etc., etc. Even last night, Bob Joseph deserves a lot of people to come see him. Just really disappointing knowing I've been to female indigenous authors and we didn't get that type of turnout at all. So anyway, it is what it is. Wanted to point it out because I want settlers who think they're progressive to see how they are complicit in perpetuating patriarchy as well as racism, unknowingly, clearly. So from here on in, I'm probably going to be talking about municipal politics and what my hope is for all the Albertans that listen in general. Like, I have put out these questions for you, all of you. I wish all of you were asking these questions to your school trustee candidates, to your counselor candidates, to your mayoral candidates. Because if you gave a shit about reconciliation, you would ask these questions and see where they land. So we put it out there. So far, all I've gotten is Ward 7 back. I'm Ward 10, so I did Ward 10. I did all the mayors, and none of the other wards, like nobody's asking questions of their counselors of that. I have a candidate that follows me in Ward 7. He answered it to me, so I put that up on my responses here. And yeah, I just wish more people who will wear an orange shirt or whichever would do more work. And in fact, it's really disappointing. Even the stupid Walmart t-shirt. I had some jerk off who thinks they're progressive and has this stance that we can't support anything American, including going to Walmart. Um, these shirts at Walmart are very clearly marked who the artist is, where the proceeds are going. And Canadians apparently don't have the wherewithal to be able to ascertain and discern that information. And that I cannot wrap my head around. It's like you purposely go out of your way to put down Indigenous people. Now, just to give a little more context, this was on Wab Kinu's tweet. The person who got the orange shirt design in Walmart was from Manitoba. So he was, promoting the artist, promoting the nation. And then some so-called progressive comes and shits on the whole conversation by saying, I just can't even because Walmart in America. And it's like, yeah, okay, you can't even. Let me say this to you, you fucking hypocritical piece of shit. This is your Westminster economic system that's been imposed on natives. So shut the fuck up. You talk down to natives, so shut the fuck up. You have the ability to write all of your so-called Canadian shops that you don't care about. You have the opportunity to write to them and say, why aren't you carrying this so that I can buy it from you? But you don't. Instead, you shit on natives. So, like, with the deepest respect to people who are like, oh, I can't shop at Walmart because Walmart's so evil. Yeah, it fucking is. But your system allowed Walmart to be in Canada. But you're just going to blame the natives because accountability is so fucking difficult for a racist colonized settler. And that's still where we're at, like the calls to action. So let's talk about Jon Wells. You had, if the business calls to action, call to action 92 would have been implemented, then that would mean that employees had anti-Indigenous training. They would have trauma-informed training, but they don't. Why? Because businesses can't afford that. Uh-huh. Well, maybe you should be pushing your government for grants so that you can afford it, so that you're holding your government compliant with the TRC. Oh, no, no, no. Settlers don't take accountability for nothing. They do, right? So that's part of it. Not to mention, it is rumored that the people who called the police were either temporary foreign workers or new Canadians. Again, call to action 93, 94. If we implemented them, then we wouldn't have newcomers so scared and uneducated about Indigenous issues. But we do because the very immigration uh, organizations that bring in new Canadians are usually Christian based. Just because the YMCA takes the C out doesn't make them less Christian and based in policies based on Christianity. I cannot wrap my head around why people can't see how, Canadian Catholic Immigration Services isn't based in Christianity. Holy Jesus Christ, folks. So please, before you start pointing your fingers at natives, point those three fingers pointing back at you and ask yourself, municipal, provincial, even self, are you doing the work yourself to hold your businesses accountable, hold your sports teams, hold your, whatever. I feel like I say these words and it goes in one ear and out the other with folks because I'm not getting your emails CC'd to me asking your counselors questions so that other people know if they're racist or if they're not. Anyway, so the municipal elections, I put out a Google sheet for people to read the replies that I have gotten, that I have received, and to also give like a guide, like, copy the questions I asked and all the observations I make about their websites. Most people don't do that. Most people don't even research who they're voting for, and that makes me sad. So if you are interested in digging a little deeper, please steal those questions, make your own, and put them out there. Because, here's the thing. I would have loved to have asked all of these folks 100 questions. But do you know how hard it is to get them to answer like five? It is so hard. And just based off of how you ask them and what they answer back with, you can tell whether or not they're basically based in settler colonial racism or not. And if they're really meaningful for reconciliation. So simple. Do they even have a land acknowledgement on their website? No, most of them didn't. But that said, okay, so and I think I've made it very clear. I'm backing Jyoti Gondak. I got to go to elections, Calgary, and get my special ballot all figured out because I'm going to be away during the advance polls as well as the actual vote. So I got to get all that done today. So that said, Jeff Davison, he has a pledge right on his website for Indigenous people. And I'm like, that's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. Every freaking candidate should have something similar. Very basic land acknowledgement, very minimum. So the replies I have got, I have put in there. I just want to highlight Larry Heather. You know, Larry Heather isn't Charlie Kirk, but man, I bet you he loved him. I bet you he loved him so hard. And a lot of people unfortunately call him crazy here. And he is just the absolute Christian that is like it's a cartoon, a caricature, actually, that you would picture. He is that guy. Just to give you an idea, my daughter's first impression, she was just like up to my hip at the time, and we were going to City Hall. This would have been maybe just before I ran municipally. Larry was there with two signs on his hips, and it said Nenshi this, Nenshi that, and he was screaming Nenshi, Nenshi. And my daughter turned to me and was like, why is that man so mad at Nenshi? And sadly, he's been the teaching tool that I've had for her for a long time of like, these are the Christians that take Christianity out of the religion. And I'm like, I don't believe in any of the three okay, the three, why can't I can picture the word. The Middle Eastern religions of Muslim, Islam, I should say, Christianity, and Judaism. So the I can't believe I can't. I'm stumbling on my words. This is what I have a friend who just got recently diagnosed with, or not diagnosed. He's going through the process of Alzheimer's. I can't believe I can't say this word. Anyway, I've been struggling since COVID. And now, of course, I'm going through hormonal changes, etc. Anyway, I use him as a teaching point to say to my daughter, religion can be a guide for some people, but some people misuse it, and he's just such a great example of that. We have a counselor or a candidate that's running in my area, and everyone knows who he is. He literally led all the anti-trans protests. We were at Harry Hayes, and he was across the street, and that was really when I was trying to work with the police, but they so clearly were on the side of them. And we had another police officer say something to my friend about, I'm so sad to see you on this side when talking about Palestine. So they have such a clear bias, even though they pretend they don't. They do. So this guy, he's running, and thankfully, folks from Calgary follow the Sprawl. He also has the Sprawl cast. I haven't listened to it recently, but he just outright listed him as anti-trans. So I'm so grateful to Jeremy Clauses for that. Thank you, Jeremy. And I asked Andre Chabot. He got back to me. I don't love his answers, but unfortunately, this is where we're at. And here's the thing, I'm going to say this to you, Calgary Future. Calgary Future is trying to endorse the more progressive candidates. Now, that said, Jyoti is right of center. All of the ones, there is not a single candidate I think that is actually not right of center. Even the one I like in Ward 7, who is like a scientist, like if you're all pro police, then you're still a colonizer, right? So these are things that I worry a lot about. Although I think he wasn't pro cop. Anyway, that's regardless. I know a lot of scientists and doctors and physicians that happily police natives. So I didn't mean to throw him under the bus there. So I'm going to be supporting Jyoti. They endorsed Jyoti. She's the most progressive that there is, obviously. So I'm going to be voting for her. And unfortunately, the ones that they wanted for my ward, she replied back to me and said, "Oh my God, I so love natives, and I took a couple of courses. And after the election, we should totally talk about this." And I'm like, "We sure can, but I doubt it." And I'm not going to vote for her because you can't answer my 5 small reconciliation questions without saying, "Oh, I just took some courses." Like that's not enough. So, needless to say, I'm not happy that Calgary Future endorsed her, but it is what it is. So, unfortunately, now I have to vote for Andre Chabot. There was another reason for it though, and the other reason was this is that if he gets reelected, I think there's only going to be possibly 2 counselors who have any sort of, and I believe having some sort of institutional knowledge is important. So having Andre, even with his like conservative views, talking about, oh, well, the reason why we voted like this at that time was because of this. And then the reason why we voted like this at this time is because of this, so that the new counselors have some kind of idea about the history of the institution. Because with the deepest respect, while we do have some who are actually plugged in candidates, we have a lot that aren't. The school trustees, especially, I sent out a big email to a lot of them, and almost none of the Brown candidates have got back to me. Not none of them. And oh my God, this is so funny. I made a TikTok that I thought was so funny. There's this cowboy that's running as a school trustee for my area. He's older than Hills. He's like a caricature as well. Well, like I'm sure for the white women who love patriarchy, he will be fine. For the white men, he will be fine. And anyway, he got back to me and he wrote Cookham, as my husband says, as his online personality where he tells people they're cucks. And so he said Cookham instead of Cookham. So I made a TikTok. I thought it was the funniest thing I've ever done on TikTok ever. And it's not nearly getting the jokes it should, especially on Indigenous TikTok. But it is what it is. So he, well-meaning, heartful cowboy type response. And my other person that also had a good reply and is actually educated and knows that we should have an appointed Indigenous school trustee, which I had advocated for the last, I don't know, 5 years, that it went in one ear and out the other for most Calgarians. She wants to have an appointed Indigenous school trustee. So she's earned my vote for sure. But because I CC'd everybody, these two are replying back and forth, and I'm reading what they're saying. And I'm like, at least they're having a conversation. And I'm not putting all the replies up on the Google, but it is kind of nice to see two so-called rivals, two people running against each other, being cordial and sweet to each other in these emails. But unfortunately, as an Indigenous person, it's a lot of head patting type of white supremacy. And they don't see it because, they are colonizers who haven't done anti-racism training, but this is where we're at, folks. So I put up all the replies that I've received on my sheet, and you know, I should put, you know what I'll do right after this is I'll put the link to the city's list of candidates, because I did this work on Saturday. Monday at noon was the cutoff, and there were a few new candidates that had put their name on. So I kind of re-forwarded it. And I should say this about Jeff Davison. I made this big production to all the mayoral candidates that Jeff said this on his website, but I didn't CC him the first time. And the first time I sent it out, I said Davidson, not Davison. So there's no D in the middle. And then the second time I noticed when I was going through it that I had accidentally missed him, so I re-forwarded it to his team. Not that they've got back to me, but and something happened yesterday, and yesterday it was said that there was a new poll that showed that Jeremy Farkas is absolutely leading the polls for the mayoral candidate, which I'm not too surprised about because everybody likes a white male first and foremost, and he has experience. So I'm not surprised to see that. And the anti-Jody Gonduk campaign that has been going on for years, obviously is catching up to this point now where she's second. So I just beg people to really look at that. A lot of people believe Jeremy Farkas. He's flip-flopped on a million things. He never stood up for the queer community when he was in office, and even when he tried to run for mayor before. So I don't trust him, but his replies have been nothing but kind. So, yeah, so my hope is that people put their, votes together and vote for Jyoti. Um, and I really think Jeff Davison is very genuine, and at least he was willing to put those pledges on his website, which is really funny because if he doesn't answer the questions, which to be fair, I've only like just gave it to him, so I'm not going to be mad at him. Um, you know, I gave him the questions. He hasn't replied yet, and I'm already like, if it wasn't for Jyoti, I'd vote for him kind of thing. So, but anyway, Jyoti is looking for folks to help her out. So please follow her, campaign with her. This weekend, there's going to be a big lit drop. I still have one lit drop to do, so I got to get that done later today too. So I got to go to the elections office, and then I'm going to do the lit drop for her in my area. So bigger question or bigger picture here, folks, please vote for, municipal candidates that are more progressive. I do wish that people understood the propaganda machine that's online, that's in your media, but it is very clear that people don't and are falling for it. So try to educate other people about misinformation. I'm a big proponent of the Sprawl Follow His Information, Jeremy Claus. He's a fantastic journalist, I think. And I've listened to, I think, all of the Edmonton candidates as well as the Calgary ones on Ryan Jesperson. Not the biggest fan. It's just that he gets the guests to come on. And because he has such a huge, a white male following, everyone knows to go onto his show. So they do. And, you know, I know they're well-meaning, but they don't recognize that they purport the patriarchy. It is what it is, and yeah, I've seen people talk about, this incident, and it's like, yep, but what has changed? And you're still not going to vote for Jyoti Gondak based off of that same thing that you already are down that play world of, as well as the colleagues of Dr. Markland. Like they're all following this conservative military industrial bot and legacy media. And so I have no control over that. It's not like people they'll put me down and still listen to Ryan Jesperson. They won't share my information. So that Google sheet will be available for folks to at least read the replies that I see and I put in. I do have a couple of other friends who are helping me with inputting it, but so far I've only seen the one friend put some of her Ward 7 replies in there. So, um, you know, I challenge you. I challenge you if you are in Calgary to reply or put out that email to your friends or your candidates and CC the Reconciliation Action Group or me at nativeyyc@gmail.com. Because if you do that work and they start replying and they reply all, then I will put it up on my spreadsheet. Now, some of the candidates would only reply to me, so I had to re-forward it to the Reconciliation Action Group. But so if that's the case, if you would do that, I would love that. And I would put effort to putting it up because I can do it on my phone. It's not perfectly formatted. And I know for me, I don't have the money for Microsoft Excel sheets and stuff. So I know other people do, but I don't. So it just seems like a racket, right? Like the licensing, you have to renew every year and then you have to do all these updates. And then that update messes this software up with this software. And then there's another update. And, so if you are a business, then you can get that done. And I'm going to put more effort towards behaving like a business, I think, and then hopefully be able to generate some kind of revenue and figuring out what I feel is an ethical sponsorship. Anyway, I'm getting off track. Please get involved in your municipal elections in some capacity so that we can offset this ridiculous UCP and federal conservative fascist rabbit hole that they have gone down. And, I know a lot of you are probably mad at Mark Carney, and I don't blame you because he's just another neoliberal, but he is trying to get trade deals outside of the US because the US is going down the world of fascism. So, I wish there was a better choice in the NDP, but there isn't. And the truth is, even if there was the best, most amazing person, I don't know if it would change. I just don't know, especially in Alberta, it would definitely I just don't think so. Anyway, that's my opinion. I wish workers were properly cared for in this country, but the NDP seem to have gone away from workers' rights, and quite frankly, I feel like you see more people becoming small businesses and fighting for business and big business rather than workers and workers' rights, despite the fact that we have like a huge unemployment issue in Alberta. Youth unemployment is the highest it's ever been. And, we're doing these campaigns to bring people to Alberta, and there's no affordable housing and. So it's a shame what people vote for and then what we get. And I heard our insurance rates are going to go back up even for good drivers. So yay, let's vote for more of that too. So if you don't have progressive municipal candidates, then like we have nothing to fight back this fascism hole that we're going down of oligarchy. Oh, so I can remember oligarchy, but I can't remember Abrahamic religions. Oh my God. So embarrassing. Okay, so Jon Wells, Reconciliation Day, going to the polls, Samuel Bird, Sisters in Spirit, Forever Canada Petition, municipal politics. I think I talked about everything I wanted to talk about. And then we're reading I Was a Teenage Slasher by Stephen Graham Jones, New York Times best-selling author and an Indigenous author, a Blackfeet Nation member. So if you're in Treaty 7, as well as just want to have a fun horror novel to read, come join the book club. But as always, giving a shout out to November's book club, Arc of the Medicine Line by Tony Rees. I had a Blackfoot elder say that this is the story of the Canada-US border. And even though it's written by a white guy, it's important to know this history. So, and she said it was very important. So we're reading this guy. Reconciliation Action Group, if you want to help us, we're going to be at 2 locations on September 30th. We're going to be at the walk that is here in Calgary, but we're also going to be at the Jon Wells Memorial Walk as well. So, and Sisters in Spirit, I know I have at least 2 volunteers from the Reconciliation Action Group there. Would love to see more Calgarians show up for that too. So join the Reconciliation Action Group. We will hold you accountable, though, on reading the TRC and the MMIW report. Like, if you don't know these things, please do that work so you can come join us and do that work and write your counselors these questions so that you have an idea where they are on the spectrum of settler colonialism and reconciliation. And we shall go from there. So I just, and stick around for my good story I have to tell you. Masi Cho to my ancestors, to my granny, to my mom, what strength looks like through your example. My auntie is passing right now. She's had lots of visitors up in Edmonton, and my family is with her right now, and she's in a lot of pain. So we're thinking about her as she's passing, and my other aunt from Yellowknife already went to Maskwacis and closed up her office, and I know the girls there are thinking of her because one was the one who reached out to me to tell me how dire the situation was, and the visitors that are going to see my auntie right now. So imagine that, she's going to pass, if not today, tomorrow, and then we will have a funeral to be doing while my mom has her hip surgery. I don't know how that's going to work. I want to thank my dad for teaching me to be strong and blunt. My stepmom of showing me her proud Austrian culture and her roots. And to my husband, Darcy, a big Buffalo rock man. I'm proud of you. You are fantastic at editing and producing, but you're my childhood friend, husband, father of a child. And, we are walking this journey together of parenting, and you've witnessed decades of racism, sexism, patriarchy, ableism. To our child, we are blessed to learn from you daily, even though now you're an adult. You give me daily accountability to be a better, stronger person. And my hope, my daughter, my family will be proud in the future of trying to discuss these present day issues in a way they can understand down the road. I honor the Blackfoot as the elders and members have been so kind to me on my Red Road journey. Elder Red Crane taught me how to pronounce my spirit name in Blackfoot, and Leonard Kenny taught me how to pronounce my spirit name in Satu Dene. My humblest apologies to the elders and language keepers oh my God, I was messing up English today too. I think I'm getting older, folks. My Patreon account is Native Calgarian, where you can pledge and support. Thank you, previous donors, for showing your support. If you value listening, watching, and can afford to give, thank you. For those who cannot afford to give, I'd love to hear from you at nativeyyc@gmail.com, or I'd love to see your tags where you learned something that you heard here. Send in your comments or your questions. I have a YouTube channel that you can go and subscribe. Go to nativecalgarian.com for latest podcasts and pin posts on social media. And this touch grass moment I wanted to say was I went to see Bob Joseph, the author of 21 Things You May Not Know About the Indian Act. He has now put out a new book called 21 Things You Don't Know About Self-Governance. And so he's trying to continue that conversation. And he made the point that next year is 150 years that the Indian Act has been in play. And so, the conversation of the Indian Act will be front and center next year. And it's important that natives, at least, are going to be talking about it. I don't know about you settlers, probably whatever new hockey players doing. I don't know. But if you would like to join us in this real meaningful conversation of reconciliation, please read Bob Joseph's books. He's all trademarked and registered, so you can follow the corporate work he does anyway, and see the great work that he has put out there for other folks to learn from. He's one of my leaders. He's one of the people I look up to. He's a inherent governance chief. Like he's a legacy media or a family person who does the he's been trained since childhood on being a chief for traditional governance. So, this is someone I look up to and listen to what he has to say and how we need to adapt and, gives real world solutions on the things that we're talking about. So he's one of the voices that I put up there. And anyway, I was telling him I got four books, both of his books, one for me, one for my daughter. But my daughter already had one from USay, and USay had just had their wonderful grand opening. And so it had the sticker on there and my daughter's notes about things that really mattered to her. And so he heard that, and I watched him spend lots of good time with a grade 12 white boy in front of me and just, because he knows it's the next generation that has to do this work. So he writes in my daughter's book, I can't do this without you. Keep up the good work you're doing. And I just thought that was such a wonderful and important message for all of our Indigenous youth to know. We can't do this without you and how much you matter to us. So, again, for settlers listening, there's a wonderful organization called You Matter, and it's Indigenous led, and it's to try to tell our youth how much they matter to us. I would have loved to have seen something like that when I was younger, as I'm sure my generation of Indigenous moms and dads would have loved, but we're here now doing this work. So, anyway, I wanted to, carry the words of Bob Joseph and let the Indigenous youth know how much you mean to us, how much you matter. And we are grateful for you because this work that we're trying to do, unfortunately, is going to be passed on to you because my generation of white settler colonizers can't seem to get it together. That it's nice seeing TikTok, seeing the youth get it. Unfortunately, there are a lot of like Trump, Charlie Kirk types that don't. And we'll continue to listen to a Joe Rogan over, voices of, based in science, education, et cetera, et cetera. So I want to say to the Indigenous youth how much you matter to us and how much we do this work in the hopes that it'll be better for you. And I'll just give a shout out to another content creator who is Indigenous, who is a doctorate in the States. And he says time for us Indigenous people are just so different than the way colonizers think. We think of the generations before us, how we're here in this moment, and how we have to do better for the next generations, and that's our concept of time. Whereas with colonizers, it's like 8 to 5, punch in a clock, blah blah blah. They don't think about that bigger picture of honoring your ancestors and then the next generation. So to the next generation of Indigenous youth, that's how I think, and that you are our hope. And I know we live in a post-apocalyptic world with these new settlers that are the worst treaty partners on the planet. And just to give you an idea more, I'll talk about that after to make this point. You know, just because they're shitty doesn't mean we should go down to their level, right? So like I'm going to be looking for sponsorships that I feel ethical about. I have a friend in Edmonton who also ran with me who may not appreciate being named. And, she really inspired me about being authentic and ethical with our money and such too, the little dimes we have. But, that bigger picture that, Bob Joseph wants us to be successfully independent, and I want that for all of us too. And while BC is different than Alberta for treaty partnerships, I believe in you, and I know that you can create a world ethically, and I know you will lead ethically, and I believe in you and your ethics and morals because our ancestors taught us good ones. So to the youth, I love you. We love you. You are our hope. There's always hope in rebellion, always. And I know this settler colonial capitalist system is falling. These settler colonizers, they always pick up their sad panties and move. we will be here. We will continue to stay, and then unfortunately have to pick up those shitty treaty partners' mess. So learn about, the arsenic that's in Yellowknife and how we're going to get rid of that. The poisoning of the tailwaters, we'll work on that. Ethical grids, we will work on that. We will continue to do ethical work as opposed to these settler capitalists who only want to steal our land and kill us with their police so that they can feel good about taking our resources. But when these resources run out, we will be here still. And we will have a second apocalypse that we'll have lived through, that we will continue with our traditional ways. So, I just want you to know how much faith I have in you, how much I know you will get there. And, today we're on day 3 of a recovery conference that's happening here in Calgary. There are people there that will help you too on your path to recovery. I will help you the best I can, and just know you are loved. And I had to try to make this point. I was going to try to make it earlier. These settler colonizers, their governments are like, okay, we'll be on the side of Palestine now a little bit. We'll acknowledge they exist. And then who is it? It's the UK, it's Canada, New Zealand, Australia, the fucking colonizers who are still perpetuating genocide on us. So while we have hope about the idea of recognizing Palestine that had been recognized forever until colonizers showed up from the UK with their Balfour Declaration, just like they showed up here on our lands with their royal proclamations. Now they think they're going to look like heroes for acknowledging some sort of state of Palestine. Never fall for their bullshit, to my Indigenous youth. They're just settlers trying to pretend they're good people, and you and I know they will never take full responsibility for all of the pain and suffering and genocide that they have perpetuated, whether on the Black people in Africa, the slaves that they brought over to these lands, the colonizations they've done to us, or what they are doing to the Palestinians. I just want you to know we will live, we will survive. This is the fall of the Roman Empire in the States. You're seeing it real time. And we will live past this apocalypse that others won't. And we will have to clean up settlers' mess of all of this nuclear reactors they've left in the States that they're trying to implement here in Alberta. And they did in Ontario. We'll just have to work with them the best we can. And to the settlers who are like, I'm not like that. Well, then you better start, paying Indigenous people, putting them as part of your business model, training your other settler kids, colleagues, sports clubs, whatever, to do the calls to actions and calls to justice and put Indigenous governance as front and center. And until I see that, I'm not going to believe you. Anyway, thanks, folks, for listening. I appreciate you. I've seen some really kind messages over the last week. And yeah, I hope you listen to the book clubs rather than write it all off. Thanks so much.